Hello, welcome to the Minimalist EDC. My name's Chris, and today we're going to do a disassembly and maintenance on this guy right here. This is the Spyderco PM2 with Tanto. So, this guy is already wearing some aftermarket scales. So we're going to keep those scales, but I'm going to take it apart, see how it works inside, show you guys, and also put it back together with a little bit of lube. So, this will be the first time I've taken this particular model apart, so we're going to learn together. So first thing I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to approach it from the back side. I have my bits already out. There's 3 different bit sizes for this model. So you're going to start with a T6 for the pocket clip. So this is an aftermarket pocket clip. This is the Lynch Northwest deep carry clip for this model. Not a sponsor, but I like their products. Get in there with my little T6 driver, get that out, and I'll just leave all screws intact where they started. Next, we're going to move to a T8. So, for our T8 screws, those are going to be your body screws. You can already feel the compression lock pushing positive pressure on the scale. Yep. And then lastly, I'm going to get this pivot out with a T10. Is it a captured pivot? That's a good question. It may be captured. It came out pretty easily. So we have a T10 screw. And then let's see how this disassembles. Just going to put a little pressure on it. I'm not trying to force anything. I thought I got this one completely out. It was just free spinning a second ago. I may have to take the body screws out from the other side as well. I may find that that is a necessity. Yep, looks like it's probably going to be. So, So when I loosened this screw fell out. Interesting. We'll find out more about that here in a few minutes. So we get this guy out. We may have to do a full removal of everything to get into this guy. Like I said, first time I'm approaching this, so you guys are experiencing it with me. Because a lot of times when you take your knife apart, you may be the first time you've ever got into it as well. So I try to approach these blind so that we can learn together. Okay, I'm feeling it's coming apart. I use my little pry tool to kind of get in there. And, all just popped apart. Great. Okay. So, let's see what I'm left with here. So we got this nice blade. Spyderco makes really good, well heat-treated blades. This is what we're left with. All right, not focusing. So, you get your barrel spacer. You got your standoffs for the body screws, and then the pivot right here in the middle. Kind of a different construction from some other things I've seen, but Spyderco knows what they're doing. They've been doing it a long time. So, unlike a lot of the knives that I have on this channel, this one is a phosphor bronze washer, which is this guy right here. So we got 2 of them. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some rubbing alcohol, and we're going to get these washers all cleaned up, get any gunk, grime, dirt, anything that is accumulated on them. And you're not going to need to get them back to like a high polish like you would like brass or bronze you'd see like out of a box on something, but it does need to be free of any residual gunk, grime, grease, any particulate you might find on there. I'll just set those on the blade surface so I don't lose them. This is the pivot. It looks to be pretty good. And then, do the standoffs come up? They don't. Or at least they don't come off with just a little bit of prying. I'm not going to do a whole lot of disassembly here because I'm not changing the scales or anything. I'm just going to get any residual gunk off there. That looks nice. And then we're going to get the gunk off of this one. So just getting up close, I'll show you what what I'm seeing. It's pretty clean. It's not that bad, actually. It's really just a little bit of residual gunk, I suppose, for lack of a better term. But we're going to get it off. We're going to replace it with some KPL and hopefully get this guy running quite nice. So it looks like, and so I'm just going to take a look at it. It looks like these nested liners, yeah. So if I was going to do a scale change, I think the biggest hurdle is getting this barrel spacer out of its hole. I've heard that that's a bit of a challenge, but yeah, these are just nested liners and they'll come right out. But like I said, I'm not doing a scale swap today. I'm just doing some cleaning. And then I'm going to be using some KPL. I'll put a little bit of KPL around where the washer sits. I'll put the washer back on. This is quite an easy knife to maintain from what it seems, unless I'm going to run into something obnoxious in a minute. And I'm just going to put a little bit more. So I tend to over lube, I know I do, but it all just kind of comes out. I can wipe the blade off of any excess lubricant. Alright, so next, all I'm going to do is put the pivot back in. And I think the pivot screws appear to be identical. So what I imagine I can do is get the pivot actually attached by putting one of the pivot screws back in. And that will make further assembly just a tad more simple. Alright, yeah, we got that in there. It's going to hold the washer in place. Excellent. That washer is free spinning. Perfect. So, we take our blade and get it around the pivot. And take our other half. Okay, this one may be where the challenge lies, is getting that to stay still. And perhaps, let's see if this is the best practice, get that pivot screw in there and place it right down on top of where I want it to land. Yeah, okay, I think that'll do. And so what you see is like we got the pivot in, but there's a lot of things that are not aligned yet. Like the barrel spacer needs to be aligned and these back pivots need to be aligned. I think I'm going to put the blade in its open position and see if I can't just push everything together. I can feel some resistance. That may be the compression lock that is pushing against me. So next thing I'm going to attempt is to put one of the body screws back into that barrel spacer back here. Got to go back to my T8. Yeah, that tightens it down. We're looking a lot better. The barrel spacer is in its proper hole. Great. So we're going to continue putting in body screws. Come on. Yeah, don't try to force anything that's not going to going willingly. Like you don't want to misthread something. And just in case these are a little bit different, I'm going to try this one because I don't want to put something into a thread that it was not in before. I'm getting a lot of resistance on that one. So I'm back that guy out. I'll try it from the other side, see if I can align it by putting its compatriot on the back side back in. Okay, that one is going in a lot easier. Yeah, something is not aligned properly, and that's what we're going to have to deal with. Because I can feel when the blade comes out, there's a little bit of blade play back and forth, and that is not where I want to be. And what I think is that my pivot is not seated correctly. pull one of the pivot screws out. All right, we're going to go back up just a minute. And like, if you're looking for a professional person who's done this 1,000 times, go look at Nick Shabazz. I'm sure he has a PM2 disassembly. If you're hanging out with me, you're seeing me do it for the first time, and that's what I'm trying to offer, is stumbling over the mistakes that you might find because I'm doing it for the first time. So that's why we're doing this together, and mistakes are going to be made. But in the end, we'll get our night back together. All right. So I think my main issue is the pivot is not seated correctly. That's why I'm getting blade play and why I'm getting a misalignment of my threads. So we're going to take this back apart. Okay. I still think the right call is to align the pivot by putting in one of the pivot screws and screwing that in. I'm just going to take a little bit more caution and care on this one to make sure that it is seated correctly. Also, I'm going to check to see yeah, okay, that's one thing I didn't check for before, and that's on me, but we'll talk about it together here. See if I can get this to focus. I apologize, I'm using a new camera, and this is, there we are. So you see how this has a D-ring? I thought that it was a non-captured pivot, but it is captured, so there is a little flat side that is going to have to go into the flat place on the knife or the pivot. So what I'm checking for here is, yeah, that flat side is directional. So what I'm going to do is check and see where that directionality is. Okay, found it. So in the liner right here, the bottom is flat. So what that's going to mean is this little flat area on the pivot has to go into that flat space. Aha, it fits like a glove now. All right, so we're going to get our pivot screw back in. All right, now the pivot is captured and is properly seated. I think we are going to be good from here. Because this one does not have a directional preference. Yep, okay. That will go fine once I get the blade in. And then get the pivot aligned. And a pivot screw in. Something still doesn't feel right. I think, oh, it's that barrel spacer. It's quite a deep inset. Okay, but once the barrel spacer is in, yeah, now this feels much better. Now that I've got the pivot where it needs to be. Okay. I think we can go forward from here. So we're going to drop in the body screws, going to go back to the T8, T6, no, okay, T8. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I appreciate a like and subscribe if this is helpful to you. Like I said, I could have taken this apart a couple times before camera and put it together perfectly, but honestly, like there's so many other people that do that. that show you exactly how to take these things apart and put them back together. What I'm going for here is an honest journey of someone who is decent with knives and mechanical things, but is looking at these things with fresh eyes. And so maybe you see my mistakes, maybe you don't, maybe you make your own mistakes, but we're getting through it together. And the last thing is this guy right here with the pocket clip. And I'm just going to seat each of the screws a little bit first to get them to bite before I screw them all down. We're back to the T6 for this, of course. And then I kind of just go round robin, getting each of them tightened. That way you don't bend a screw by tightening one side before the other. There you go, tight. Okay. And so what we have when we're done here is a serviced and cleaned PM2. No back and forth play, no up and down play. It's dropping shut. We're doing Spidey flicking. We're doing thumb hole flicking. Yeah, this thing's good to go. Whoops. But, yep. So this has been the disassembly and maintenance of the Spyderco PM2. I appreciate you to like and subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with me. If this has been helpful to you, please let me know. All right, y'all have a great day.